95.3 KPND. Joining me on the phone right now, I have Frank Zafiro. He is the author of Beneath a Weeping Sky. It's a River City crime novel. As a matter of fact, one of the first crime novels I read in quite some time. Frank, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well.
Very nice. First off, before we get into things, give us a little bit about your background, because I think it kind of ties into to the book itself.
I grew up here in Deer Park in Spokane. Spent a few years in the military in the intelligence field. Hold your jokes, please. And then I've been working in law enforcement since 1993 here in Spokane, and I've been pretty much every rank or position you can be outside of some specialties. I was a patrol officer, a corporal, a detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and I'm currently a captain in charge of the patrol division.
Nice. Now, that obviously, all that experience in police work gives you a great background to draw on for the books. Beneath the Weeping Sky, how would you describe it? Because in terms of a crime thriller.
Well, I think when you get into the mystery field, there's kind of different subgenres of it. I mean, you have like the Miss Marple and Murder She Wrote type of stuff, and those would be called cozies, and then the Mike Hammer stuff would be called hard-boiled. And then a subset is also known as a police procedural. That would be kind of like your Law and Order TV show or your Ed McBain's 87th Precinct, Joseph Wambaugh. And so I think if I were to have to put it into one of those subgenres, that'd be the one I'd probably select. Although there's a pretty strong element of suspense to the book as well. So
sure.
It's a bit of a hybrid in that regard.
Right. Now, this follows the Detective John Tower. Now, is he the main character throughout? Because is this the third in a series?
This is the third in the series. The first was published back in '06, called Under a Raging Moon, and that one is focused almost entirely on the patrol division, which is a rather unique take. I mean, I've seen it done, but not very often. Usually, it is the detectives, particularly the homicide detectives, who are the stars of the police thrillers. But that's just the patrol division there. And then in the second book, Heroes Often Fail. They have to let the detectives come out and play because there's a kidnapping, and so it's kind of a half-and-half sort of thing. By the time you get to the third book, with the same set of characters, the same cast of characters, different characters have kind of ebbed and flowed in who's the main character,
right,
and who isn't. In this third book, John Tower's definitely one of the main characters, as he is the lead detective assigned in the case of trying to stop a serial rapist here in River City. However, I would also say that one of probably the main character is a female patrol officer named Katie McLeod,
right,
who ends up getting tapped to be a decoy in an effort to catch this criminal.
Right. Now, I'll be straight up with you. Some of the reading is intense. I mean, because we are talking about a pretty sensitive thing that holds a lot of different kind of weight for a lot of different kind of people. One of the things I was amazed at is just how you seem to be able to create a scene that will put you right on the edge of your seat. It's really quite remarkable. How do you approach that?
Wow, that's a great question. I've done a lot of interviews in the last few years, and that might be the best question I've had.
Oh, well, thank you.
The different writers will tell you different things because I think there are different approaches to that. But for me, I generally see it in my head, almost like a movie or a television show. And I can see the scene, and then so for me, it's all about just really describing or transcribing what I'm seeing.
Right.
And trying to incorporate as many of the senses as possible. Different people, learn in different ways, and different people experience the world in different ways. And the more you could paint a picture where somebody sees something, that's great. You need that, but what they're hearing, what they're smelling, what their emotional reaction or what the emotional impact is to them. Are they afraid? Are they angry? And if you package that all together, it creates an experience, I think, that the reader can then feel like they can step into the skin of one of those characters and experience that, and I think that's where you get the connection.
Right, for sure. Well, Frank, I will tell you this. I was very captured by the way that you're able to, kind of paint the scene of what's going on, and also the character development. It was obvious to me as soon as I got into the book that I needed to go back at some point and catch up on the other two books because it's it's obvious that you joined something kind of in progress, but you do a great job of kind of really building these characters. Because I was only about 100 pages in, and I had 3 or 4 characters that were really quite interesting in terms of their perspective and where they come from on it. So do us a real quick favor. Where can people get a hold of your books? Do you have a website and that kind of thing?
The books are all available at local bookstores for sure. That's where they end up getting distributed to first from the publisher, who is a local publisher here in Spokane. So your Aunties and your Hastings for sure. Also directly from Grey Dog Press, and they're on the net at greydogpress.com. And then if people want to check things out, as far as I'm concerned, I do have a website. It's just frankzafiro.com. My first name Frank, and then Zafiro is spelled Zafiro.
So frankzafiro.com, and this is obviously from Grey Dog Press. Beneath a Weeping Sky, the name of the book. It is a River City crime novel. It's actually the third of 3. Is that correct, Frank?
That is correct.
And we greatly appreciate it. Great book, Frank, and want to tell all you listeners out there, make sure you get out, support our local artists, in this case, an author, and get out there, get a copy of this book. It is fantastic. And Frank, we thank you very much for taking some time with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right, back on the air with Frank Zafiro, the author of Beneath a Weeping Sky, River City crime novel. Frank, I'm interested, what got you into writing? What was it that one day you wake up and what do you say in yourself?
Well, for me, it was always a drive. It was always a desire, even when I was 10, 11 years old. And so it's just a natural thing for me, kind of like, a musician plays guitar or whatever. So it's been kind of a lifelong advancement in discovering that there's a craft side to it. When you're younger, you just you write something down and you think it's great and it should be published somewhere. You don't realize until you get a little more mature that there's a craft to it, just like in music or in broadcasting or in any other artistic endeavor.
Right. It's interesting when looking at this book. Obviously, one of the things that jumps right out at me is this perpetrator, our bad guy, our villain, and this villain has issues for
He's
days.
A bit messed up.
He is a little bit messed up. Now, is that something that you that comes from your time on the street in police work? Is this based on somebody, or is this just kind of based on a kind of a collage of different criminal elements that you've met in the past? How'd you come up with this guy? Because I'll be honest with you, it kind of was creeping me out a little bit because I was like, wow, this guy knows this guy knows the criminal mind really, really well. Because especially in the opening scenes where you have this he's having this dialogue with himself. And it's obvious right off the get-go that, there's obviously some deep-seated issues that come back from early childhood. How did you go about that? Where did this come from, the genesis?
Well, it's one of those things where you do draw heavily from the color and flavor of your work experience, and I've met some very messed up people. But, this guy's so over-the-top messed up in that I really just had to think it through and try to decide, okay, well, what could possibly motivate somebody to do these types of things, and then start going down that path. And I definitely wanted a villain who was not just a straw man set up, a two-dimensional character that people could just say, oh, he's icky, and then they move on. I wanted it to be a little more complex than that and give him some motivators. So even though they're negative motivators, and even though, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for him because of what he's doing, at least you can look at it and go, well, yeah, I guess if that happened to me, I'd be pretty messed up too. And then the second part is the sometimes distasteful part of being the writer and saying, okay, I've got to get into this guy's head a little bit to dredge out what's going on to put it on the page. Otherwise, it's not going to come out with any kind of truthfulness or any honesty to it. And the readers are great BS detectors. I mean, if you're not writing something halfway, pretty true, they're going to catch that, and they're going to be reminded that they're reading a book, and they're going to, probably put it down at some point. So that was kind of the process for me, and it was akin to, doing some difficult interviews of, say, a child molester or something like that
right.
during my career, where you want to take a shower afterwards, but you have to do what you have to do to finish the job.
No doubt, and I can see the similarity there. There's no doubt about it when you're especially when you're in this character in the section where the character is going through these conversations with himself and obviously recounting childhood things. I wouldn't say that there's any sympathy for the guy, but there's an understanding that obviously we're dealing with someone here who is way out there in left field. It reminded me to an extent. I mean, obviously very different kind of things, but there was a Hannibal Lecter kind of feel to the guy, just an overwhelming kind of foreboding evil that you were able to create there, and it's absolutely it's shocking. I'll tell you that. As I pick up the book over and over again, that's the one thing I kind of always go back to. What is this guy going to do next? And so very well done in that respect. Now, where do you plan to go with this? Is our Detective Tower, is he going to continue running around River City and fighting crime? Is that how we're going to go about this? Are there more books to come?
Oh, for sure. There's a couple of books I've written in the series actually that take place a lot further down the timeline, so I have to keep writing to catch up to them. But the nice part about this series is it is a cast of characters. It's an ensemble cast, and so I'm able to a little bit, like I mentioned before, ebb and flow who's in what role. And for instance, Tower doesn't even appear hardly at all in the first book, and
right.
And he's kind of one of two detectives working the case in the second book, but now he's front and center. And then in the next book, he kind of takes a break. He's kind of in the backseat. He's in the background, in the periphery. Same thing with Katie McLeod. She's kind of takes a bit of a break. Once the fifth book comes around, Katie McLeod again is in the forefront of the case, and probably Tower again as well. Thomas Chisholm is a character that I think is probably the only one who's pretty consistently been in a very strong secondary support role, and he's actually the only character that I based on a real person. Everyone else is completely made up, but Thomas Chisholm is based on a real cop.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, it is an absolutely interesting cast of characters that you've got there. So, and I like how you set it up. So, you can have one, like you say, Tower kind of is the lead in this, and then you can go to another book entirely, another case, another type of crime entirely, and take one of these well-crafted characters and go in a completely different direction. So it's very interesting, and I would imagine that's kind of advantageous to you. It gives you a much wider variety of directions in which you can go.
And it's great for the reader too, I think, because it's not going to get stale after 3 or 4 books where maybe they're kind of, okay, I'm kind of sick of this particular character now, because they almost can get a little bit excited about, oh, hey, this is a book where Sully and Battaglia have big roles, or this is a book where Katie McLeod's the main character and she's my favorite character,
right?
And yet there's not so much of it that it gets old at all. And it opens up the possibilities because certain things are more likely to happen to particular people, and so you can pull that character up off the bench there and say, hey, this is your time. Here's the ball. Go throw fastballs because it's your turn.
Right. Okay. So the first book is Under a Raging Moon, and then Heroes Often Fail, and then this is the third, Beneath the Weeping Sky, available in stores as we speak. Correct?
Correct. All three.
Very nice. It's from Grey Dog Press. It is Frank Zafiro, Zafiro. It's frankzafiro.com if you want to check out the website. The River City Crime Novels. Frank, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We greatly appreciate it, and look forward to the next book. Any time frame on when we might see that?
Right now it's slated for about this time next year.
Very nice. Well, thanks so much, and thanks for all the work that you do on the streets in Spokane. Greatly appreciated to you and all of your brothers in the in law enforcement. And once again, thanks for taking some time with us this morning.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right. That's Frank Zafiro. He is the author of Beneath a Weeping Sky. Like I said, frankzafiro.com is where you can go. All your booksellers have it. It's a Grey Dog Press, Beneath a Weeping Sky. That is Frank Zafiro joining us from Spokane.